All right, live.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Just give me a few moments while we just share all our stuff. So it's showing the Aloha live right now.
Well,
It's showing the huddle right now, full screen.
ah, now we should be good.
Yep. There you go. I'll give everyone a few moments while I just post everything, guys. Just give me a minute. Hope everyone's doing well. We got playoffs right on the horizon. It's always good. All
Yeah,
right.
let me know if there's any issues with sound, guys. Just because running the programs and stuff. So let me know if you guys can hear everything.
Yeah, we're trying to do some new stuff, which is a little bit of film work this time. So appreciate you guys' patience. Um, we're almost set. Well, we'll give everyone a few moments while we are going live here. We're going to be talking about obviously the playoff games going on. I know there's a bunch of consolation games going on tonight too, but we're not going to focus in on them just because we're into our playoff coverage. So if there's any questions, we can kind of answer as an overall structure. But this show is going to be a focus in on the playoffs. All right, we are about to get started. All right, guys. I'm seeing people filter in, which is good. How's everybody doing? All right, Mars, let's dive into. I want to welcome our audience. As always, this is our week 9 preview show. We're going to be focusing on the playoffs. We got the Hudson Valley Football League Championship going on. We have the semis for all the other leagues going on. The D schools are on a bye week. They automatically play in the section championship next week. And this is for all the marbles, right, Mars? I mean, we're trying to one win away from a championship. So, and for the Hudson Valley Football League, this is their championship week. So, obviously, a huge, huge opportunity. We're going to, like we always do, if you have questions, make sure to shoot it in the chat box. We are working we're going to be doing a little bit of film work. So, we're going to be testing some new systems a little bit, just a couple of films just to kind of bring a little bit of new spice to our live coverage. But we'll talk about the games on schedule. We'll dive into the games, give our picks, and then answer any questions you guys have. So let's dive into it, Mars. And speaking about the games on schedule, on the AA side, we have John Jay East Fishkill at Arlington, which is a long-time rivalry. That's going to be Friday at 5 o'clock. We have Suffern at Carmel. That's also Friday at 7 o'clock. Then when we go to A, we have Eastchester at Somers. That was a very interesting matchup right there. And Yorktown at Harrison. So those are obviously huge ones right there. For B, Lakeland at Pleasantville, Ardsley at Rye. And in C, we have Valhalla at Westlake, Bronxville at Dobbs Ferry, and the Hudson Valley Football League Championship, which is Peekskill at Tappan Zee. So those are the games on slate. We'll start with the Hudson Valley Football League since that's the championship and go from the small schools to the big schools. So let's kind of dive into it, Mars. The Hudson Valley Football League Championship, which is Peekskill at Tappan Zee. Peekskill is 5-3. Tappan Zee is 7-1. And this is a rematch of their October 6th game where Tappan Zee won 14-6. And when you look at historically, Mars, Tappan Zee is 6-0 versus Peekskill. So undefeated versus Peekskill. Had won a close game, went down. Peekskill was driving and got stopped in Tappan Zee territory to end that game. But let's start on the Peekskill side. And they got here with that upset victory versus Spring Valley Mars in the defensive slugfest, the 8-0 affair. And this is their first 5-win season. I said this on the recap since 2015, 2016. So real good season so far for Peekskill. They're one of my teams of the week that I mentioned on the recap. I have them and Suffern. As you can see right here, I know the camera's a little bit different this time around, but those were our teams of the week. And when I look at offensively, Mars, the last 4 games has kind of been a bit of a struggle offensively. They have scored 8 points or less in the last 4 games. So the key is going to see trying to find some offense in a efficient manner against a Tappan Zee defense that is very aggressive. And you have their quarterback in Jacobs. They've kind of filtered in 2 different quarterbacks with Jacobs and Preston throughout the season. Kobla, their running back, and Smythe is kind of their 2 leading rushers. And then you have Brown on the outside as one of their main targets. But getting a consistent play on the offensive side is going to be key in this game. Mars, defensively, this is a strong unit. They've been a kind of a strong unit all year long. And then last time they played Tappan Zee, they forced a couple INTs, and that kept them in the game. They had an INT for a touchdown as well as their only score. 5 of the last 8 games, Mars, they've allowed 6 points or less. And this is a team that is very good at forcing turnovers. 19 turnovers forced, Mars, by this Peekskill defense. And there's a couple guys that really stand out to me that have been big time playmakers. You have Johnson, who he's got 5 sacks this season. He's very disruptive, puts a lot of pressure on quarterback. He's one of their leading tacklers. Kobla has 3 INTs. Brown has 4 INTs. Thames has 2 INTs. So this is a secondary that is pretty darn strong. And they run a lot of kind of like the zombie blitzing scheme where you have a bunch of different guys coming and they trust this secondary to win in man coverage more. So that's obviously their game plan. On the Tappan Zee side, they have won 5 straight games. They got here with a win versus Portchester. Offensively, they have scored 20 plus points now in 3 straight games. 4 games, they've scored 21 plus points. So this is an offense that has put up some numbers, and it starts with that quarterback, Cavalian. He had a couple passing touchdowns last week. He likes to divvy it up to different guys in this offense, and Jason Riley had a receiving touchdown. But you've seen plays by guys like Kukla, Martinez, Murray, Fission, who had a receiving touchdown. He had a jump over a guy last week. And then in the running game with O'Hara. But the big question is, and they played each other, how do they handle this pressure scheme from Peekskill is going to be a key one, Mars. The offensive line, they got to know what gap they're filling. They can't do man-on-man blocking when you do this kind of zombie scheme. You have to fill up gaps, and the running back's got to, they got to slide an offense one way, and the running back's got to fill the other way. If they can run the ball, it might actually help. So we're going to see if they could do that. Defensively, they've allowed 6 or less points in 4 out of the last 5 games. So this is a defense that's been rolling. Another defense that forces a lot of turnovers at a high clip. They forced multiple turnovers last week. Owen O'Hara had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So this is a very interesting rematch here, Mars. Thoughts on them before I kind of pull up the tape and then we pick our game?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at both squads, the fact that they come off of big wins heading into this championship, and I feel as if you have both defenses have been firing on all cylinders, and it was a very close game the last time they played each other. So I'm just looking at this from the side of the offensive line. I feel like whether you're playing, obviously whether you're Tappan Zee or your Peekskill, the offensive line is really going to really kind of dictate how this game's going to go, just because defenses on both sides have been given the pressure. So I feel like it's going to be a battle of the hogs up front that really kind of sets the stage here.
Yeah, and Mars, I actually have a little bit of tape from these 2 squads. If you pull up play number 4, and we're going to see if this works, guys. Obviously, this is different doing it live, so hope you guys enjoy it. But we're going to try this out, see if it works. And we'll kind of go through a couple clips that it's kind of showcasing the Peekskill defense and the Tappan Zee offense. So I'm going to wait for it to get pulled up.
Yeah, on my end, it's here.
All right, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. All right. So, I mean, when I'm looking through these 2 teams, a big part of it when these 2 teams played last time is handling the pressure and getting the ball out of your hands quickly. And Tappan Zee might be able to do that again. But the big question is identifying, where to go with the football, where the off coverage is. Because, Peekskill will mix it up. They'll drop some of these guys. It'll appear like everyone's coming, and then they'll drop some guys out. But Tappan Zee did a good job at times getting the ball out quickly in the right direction. You can see, look at all these guys near the line of scrimmage, right? Right, Mars? I mean, you're seeing all these guys stand there. I think they have about 7. And if you get the play rolling a little bit on this one, It's a little delayed on my side, so bear
Yeah.
with me, folks.
Yeah. So we got to the screen now with the kind of showing the play offensive play here.
Yeah. So you're going to see, and when you have all these guys near the line of scrimmage, getting the ball out of your hands quickly is going to be important. They got 7 guys near the line, and if you look on the top, they're going to run a little bit of a slant and an out. So getting the ball out, knowing where you got to go with the ball is going to be huge. And if they're playing off man, you want to get your ball out of your hands quickly. The quarterback does a really good job here. So playing in Mars, you're going to see he hikes it. The pressure's coming. He knows he can't hold on to the ball very long because they're trying to confuse the offensive line. They want to create a free rusher. So hikes it, gets the ball out of his hand quickly into the flats. And then it lets the receiver in space make a play and get a first down.
Let's watch it again. Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, look at us. Got new tech.
Just high tech here. So now we have the next front here.
Right, so that's a good job right there. Yeah, now we get to the next play. And while it loads in for me, and Mark, you can move that top bar. You can move that top bar, where it shows the hash and stuff like that. You just minimize that.
Yeah, it's just based on the screens here.
And again, here we go again. But this time, listen, the last time they had 7, this time they have 6. And you can see these defenders a little bit closer to the line. Now, when they get a little bit closer, now you have one less defender, which again is a key moment here, is now you can kind of take some double move opportunities, right? So this time, Tappan Zee recognizing that, they actually call a really nice play here. They're going to fake a screen, fake a quick pass, and this second guy is actually going to go deep. So let's let the player play.
Got it.
Right, and I apologize for the bar, but just kind of showcasing, they're going to fake it. They're actually going to shift the line to step to the right. Running back's going to go the opposite direction. And again, you can't do man-on-man blocking when they kind of run this blitz scheme because of the confusion it can create for the lineman. So stepping in one direction, you can see the running back does a good job filling. They fake the quick pass, throwing it deep. Guy gets open, leads to a huge chunk play. And in a defensive battle, these big chunk plays are absolutely massive.
Yeah. So I showed the second time around. Now we're on to the third front here.
Yeah. What Tappan Zee also can do is get condensed formations. And, the big thing, with condensed formations is it creates less space. But you can do some play action. I mean, obviously running the ball out of this is big, but you can also do play action and get your receivers, especially if they like playing man, in what we call combo type reads, where the defensive backs, 2 guys are responsible for 2 guys, but when they're tight with each other, that's going to create, when you get receivers crisscrossing, can create some confusion. So, this is what Tappan Zee did last week versus Port Chester, doing some condensed formation play action, ended up springing guys wide open. And this is something I think that could be pushed upon as well in this upcoming game versus Peekskill, is like getting condensed formations and then doing some of the play action over the top. And you're going to see in this play as well, Marshall, as you play.
Yep. So this is what the play looks like. I will run again. Do we take a look at it?
Yeah, and you could just see the condensed formation tightens the defense. There's less space for you to send these kind of free rushers, trying to get the quarterback to the outside on some of this play action. And it springs these guys, especially when you're playing some man coverage, might create some confusion, which could lead to one of these long touchdowns that Tappan Zee had last week.
All right. And now we're going to move on to the next one. Yep,
yeah,
next
on the
play.
Peekskill side, which they did a pretty good job of mixing things up. I mean, Peekskill defensively have been pretty strong all year. And, they do a good job of, again, showing all these rushers, but not all of them are going to come at once. So a big part of it, a big part of their defense is kind of creating some confusion for the offensive line, but also to the quarterback. And you're going to see again, as you showed the number here, Mark, there's 6 guys. It looks like they're playing man, right? It looks like a man free concept. Tappan Zee's in 2x2, and you see the second defender to the right is playing off about 7 yards from the receiver. So the quarterback's thinking is, well, if they're going to play off here, I can throw a quick pass to this number 2 receiver with the pressure coming. But you're going to see as you play this, Mars, Peekskill is actually going to roll that defender up, and the safety is going to cheat over to that side. And so it's going to give a different look before the ball is snapped for Tappan Zee. And because of that, now the DB is playing closer to the line, and he can now jump that short route.
And so Mars, the rest of the play.
Yep.
Yep.
And you could just play it once. You don't have to play it twice.
Yeah. I got you. Play it through. I mean, it was a great break on the ball. I mean, overall, I feel like they kind of telegraphed that perfectly.
Yeah, because the defense knows that the pressure is coming, right? So they have to get rid of the ball quickly, and they change the look for the quarterback, right, Mars? So that's a pretty good job of executing there, creating some confusion for the quarterback who thinks he's playing off, but the defender actually rolls up. So that's obviously a big one. And then the final part of this, before we go to the game pick, Mars, is again talking about this secondary for Peekskill, who's been pretty darn good. Again, forcing 19 turnovers, a majority of them is for INTs, Mars. And you're going to see again this team showing the kind of zombie pressure on this last play. And just let it load in for me. But
yeah, he's showing me the 7 yards off.
You see the 7 guys, right? And you see the 7 guys right there, and focusing in on the top. That should do a pretty good job. This is a pretty good route by the number 2 receiver. There, he's actually going to fake a go route and then cut inside. So he gets the DB to open up his hips, cuts inside. They want to try to get the ball because all that space in the middle right there. And as you play it, you're going to see the defender does have his hips open, but he does a good job because they're very athletic of spinning around, getting back into the receiver, and making a play on this ball.
Yeah, that was a great play by him, man.
And that leads to an INT. So, it was a great, this is a good DB unit that is athletic, that can play some man coverage. And if they can get pressure on the quarterback, it leads to these kind of turnovers that gets them in games.
Yeah. Oh, great plays by the defense here. I mean, it really does kind of show the kind of discipline and kind of the reaction that they really need to have in order to make these big plays to be competitive.
All right, Mars, with that said, let's get to the game pick. And, I look at these two teams. I think this is going to be another defensive slugfest in this one. The big thing in this one is which team can make enough plays offensively. And consistent-wise, Peace the last 4 games have really struggled to score. And for me, Tappan Zee have scored, like I mentioned, 20-plus points in 3 straight games. They are the home team. And I just like the way Tappan Zee's played. They have won 5 straight, and I think it's going to be a 6 game in a row and winning the championship here, Mars. So I'm going to go with Tappan Zee.
Yeah, I feel like I'm also going to go with Tappan Zee. I feel like the key thing that I think that separates this game is how consistent is the offense playing. And I know that this has been a defensive showcase last time they played, a very close game all the way around. But I feel like Tappan Zee's offense has been more consistent recently. They've been scoring a lot more points. Both defenses are great. Not saying that Peekskill can't pull it off, because they can, but they really haven't showed that they can be consistent, especially the last few weeks. They've, they need to be more, have these longer drives, make less mistakes. And Tappan Zee is just like the kings of causing turnovers. So I feel like they need to really develop their offenses in order for them to really get these long drives to kind of win this game. But I'm also going to go with Tappan Zee here.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the C matchup, Mars. One of the C semifinals, Valhalla at Westlake. Valhalla is 3-4. Westlake is 7-0. This is a rematch of their September 12th match, where Westlake won 11-8 in overtime. This was a fantastic defensive slugfest. And when I look at Valhalla, they had a bye week last week, Mars. They are currently on a 3-game losing streak. And on the offensive side, it's the real predicate on running the football. That is a huge part of their game, with their physicality on the offensive line and running the ball with Rob Foysett, who has had a tremendous season. but they're going to have to run against some heavy boxes. I mean, the other team knows that that's what they want to focus in on. So they're going to have to be able to block these one-on-ones and try to run through contact. But because of all these heavy boxes, they're also going to have to make some plays in the passing game. And Brendan O'Neill, last game they played, he had 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. But turnovers has kind of been a thing that has been a big bugaboo, if I want to call it, for this team. So that's something that has to be limited if they're going to try to pull the upset off. The last time they played that big pick six, they were up on Bronxville through a pick six on a screen pass play that changed the game. Defensively, stopping the Westlake rush attack is also going to be really important. And they were really strong in the red zone, especially against Westlake the last time they played them. That has to return. Luke Forsett has been very active for this defense, has over 50 tackles this year, but his defense has allowed 30 points 2 out of the last 3 games, which is concerning to me. That's kind of going to be something to watch. For Westlake, Morris, they had a big win versus Bronxville last week. They're 8-1 historically versus Valhalla. They have won 5 straight. And offensively, it's about the speed game. There's a really strong rush attack. They can give the ball to multiple different guys, but they had a lot of penalties last time they played Valhalla, which have been drive killers. But starts with their running back in Cali, was at a tremendous season, had a rushing touchdown last week. But this pass attack with Pagan woke up, and they had 2 passing touchdowns last week. Castellano was a big key factor in that game. He had 2 receiving touchdowns, also made plays defensively with an INT. This offense at times can be extremely explosive, and at times, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. So which offense are we going to see? Defensively, I think this group has really stepped up in recent weeks. They have allowed 14 or less points in 3 straight. 2 out of 3 last games, Mars, they have only allowed 1 touchdown. So this is a defense that has got obviously focusing on stopping the run. They forced 3 turnovers last week, and this is a defense that multiple guys have made plays. It's not like a 1 or 2 guy kind of carrying the load. They have multiple guys: Presperino, Nelson, Lingueza, DiNapoli, Savino, and then Castellano and Cali. This is a defense that has playmakers at each level with a lot of speed. Now, can they, again, match up the physicality? I thought a couple weeks ago they did a great job with Dobbs Ferry. They're going to have to bring that kind of intensity versus Valhalla. With that said, Mars, 2 teams. Valhalla is kind of reeling. Westlake is on a roll. I love the way their defense is playing. I think they stopped the run this week. Force Valhalla into tough situations. I'm going to go with Westlake.
Yeah, I feel like this was definitely a tough one for me, but I feel like it really has a lot to do with the defense, right? I know that obviously defense wins championships for sure, but the key thing that I'm looking at here is that whoever can stop the other team from running or doing what they like to do the most will definitely get the advantage here. And obviously both teams like to run. I think that Westlake has a lot of weapons on this team, and defensively, they've been consistently just shutting people down. So I feel like I'm also going to go with Westlake here because I feel like their defense is just overall kind of more, I guess I'm just going to say call them better than Valhalla's defense. And I feel like they both have very powerful rush offenses, but I feel like Westlake just has more of a complete package. I'm going to go with Westlake here.
Let's go to the other semifinal match in C. Mars. We have Bronxville 3-4 at Dobbs Ferry, who's 5-2, and this is a rematch of their September 23rd game where Dobbs Ferry won 12-7 in a rainy, ugly football game, but a close one. And let's start with Bronxville. Offensively, 3 of the last 4 games, they've scored 27 plus points, but last week they was really hurt by turnovers. That was a drive. They got down 21-0, had to claw their way out. And Bronxville's another offense where at times they got off the very slow start. So which offense are we going to see? But this one's also predicated on the run game. And Patterson's had a very strong year running the football, with the size and strength of that offensive with the O-line, excuse me. Now, defensively, they have allowed less than 20 points in 4 out of the 7 games. So have to protect the edge. Last time they played Dobbs Ferry, Mars, Dobbs Ferry was able to get on the edge with their speed, and play action was killer. So they have to be better with their eyes this time around. As for Dobbs Ferry, Mars, a win here, they get to the section title for a 3rd straight year. That's the first time since the COVID, the COVID year happened. So Dobbs Ferry is very prominent in C. They tend to find their way into the section title game multiple times. And another win here will again give them another opportunity. Offensively, last time they played Bronxville, they had 125 yards of offense. And I mentioned it prior. Getting out on the edge with their speed was huge, and play action was huge. Their quarterback Hardnett had a huge game in that one. And again, he's going to have to be a big-time performer in this one as well. Holman also kind of is his explosion party in this game. So to me, those 2 guys are big ones that stand out to me. But McGoey, the last couple of weeks, has been really strong. He had 94 yards and a couple touchdowns last week. 2 straight games scoring 30-plus points. This offensive line, I thought, did a good job against the size of Bronxville. Interested to see how they play them again this time around. Defensively, this is the number 1 defense in points allowed out of the C&D schools, Mars. And I thought last week they didn't have their best performance, but they had 4 games where they've allowed 8 or less points. But Tucko last week, what the real struggle was is just stopping the pass game. And Bronxville's not – they can pass the ball, but they're not huge components of it like Tucko. So this defense is led by guys like O'Leary, who was tremendous in the last time they played Bronxville, Staub, Shimoski, but keep an eye on their defensive back in Lewis. If they can stop the run, they can have some opportunities to make some plays on the football. With that said, I'm going to go with Dobbs Ferry Mars. At home, the defense has been pretty strong all year long, and I do think that they are going to kind of the similar formula is going to work for them, getting out on the edge. And I'm going to go with Dobbs Ferry.
Yeah, I feel like this one is going to go to Dobbs Ferry as well for me, just because of the fact that their defense has been really dominant all season long. And I know that last week against Tuckahoe, they kind of had some struggles with defending the pass. But like you said already, Bronxville that's not their main component. They're mainly a run-first team. And Dobbs Ferry can match size-wise and strength to anybody, right? Defensively, they've been showing that all year long. And I feel as if they have really the kind of scheme and the fit of players that if you can limit the big plays and you get the offense back the ball, I mean, they're gonna run and ground and pound until the end, and they're gonna wear you down. I feel like that's what Dobbs Ferry is the best known for. So I'm also gonna go with Dobbs Ferry here.
Yeah, and appreciate Jay McBuckets giving a shout out to Daniel Picard in the chat. Appreciate you for joining and watching. If guys, you have any questions, make sure you shoot them into the chat. We are just finishing up the C semifinal game. We did the Hudson Valley Football League. You can always go back. We're going to be posting this on the channel. Let's go to the Bs now, Mars, the B games. And let's start with Ardsley at Rye. And this is a rematch of their October 13th game where Rye won 42-14 in pretty dominant fashion. And let's start with the Ardsley, the road team. The last time they played, the defense really struggled. Since that game, though, Mars, they've outscored their opponents 81-7. In those 2 games since the Rye matchup. So Ardsley has really gotten back on track. And I'm going to start on the offensive side with Randy. He had 4 touchdowns last week versus Nanu. Had 2 rushing, 2 passing. The big thing for them is he's the orchestrator. He likes to get the ball to different guys. And a bunch of different guys have made plays. In Silverman, Dulcine running the ball, Trey and Cole Fiore, Chenard. But the big question to me is up front on this offensive line. How can they handle the pressure that Rye likes to create with their stunts and with the size of Rye? And it was a bit of a struggle last time. See how they'll handle it this time around. Defensively, they have to try to make Rye one-dimensional. Rye has gotten healthier. Their offense has gotten more explosive and more balanced. And the best thing that I think Ardsley can do is you want to see, again, they're going to be undersized, but they gave up over 500 yards last time, and they didn't allow a punt. So they got to try to take something away. You have to try to limit the big plays down the field and try to force, in my opinion, Rye to nickel and dime you all the way down and see if you can try to create a negative play to get them in 2nd and 3rd and long. That's going to be the big one for it. As we go to Rye, the last time I mentioned over 500 yards, didn't punt. This offense has gotten healthier, Mars, and they have just been sensational. They've scored 30-plus points in 5 straight games. And it's that balanced attack of running the football and passing. And I think when they run the ball and do play action, I think they are at their absolute best. And, obviously when I look at their quarterback, A.J. Miller, start of the season was a little bit rough just because he was missing some weapons. I thought he was taking a little bit too many chances on things that weren't there. But over the last 5 games, Mars, he has been absolutely sensational. And for the season, he has over 1,500 yards passing, completing 70% of his passes, Mars, 14 touchdowns to 7 INTs. He also has 4 rushing touchdowns. He has been tremendous in this stretch for Rye. And they have 2 running backs that have over 400 yards rushing, Luliano and Ramachandran, combining for 19 touchdowns. So you can see their ability to run the ball and play action pass has been absolutely pivotal for them. And they got some wide receivers and tight ends who have made big plays. Asiavati, Kesner, and Stevens have been leading the way in the receiving group. So if their ability to run with physicality against Ardsley, opening up the pass attack, I think this offense will, again, find some success. I don't know about not punting again, right? So we'll see about that part. But I do think this offense can find some success. Defensively, this is a defense that has forced 15 turnovers. This is a defense that creates negative plays, gets after. Now, they've only had 6 sacks, which is a little surprising when I looked up the numbers for Rye. Usually I think they like to generate more of those negative sack plays, but the turnovers have been there. And the big thing is keeping Rendy in the pocket. Rendy is a huge orchestrator for this offense, throwing and running, and keeping him in the pocket is going to be huge. And that's guys like Gonzalez, Wilmerth, Welburn, are going to have to be really sensational, stopping the run, keeping the quarterback in the pocket. It was nice to see Swarnak back. I saw him get a sack, which is great. He's been missing most of the season. But guys like Fenton and Saya are also guys who have made plays on this defense, Mars. This is another tough one. I don't think it's going to be another 42-14. It's not going to be a blowout, but at home, I think Rye is going to win this one, Mars. I think Rye is just the better team, and I think it's going to be a much more competitive game, but I think Rye wins out.
Yeah, I feel like the same way when it comes to like my pick here. I think Rye has just been getting healthier, has been kind of becoming more of the team that a lot of people thought that they were going to be right at the beginning, but I know that the injury bug has been kind of hitting them for most of the season. Now that they're kind of getting healthier, you can kind of see the full culmination of what a lot of people's preseason picks are saying. And Rye has just been kind of hitting on all cylinders. AJ Miller has been dominant. I know he's been putting on some crazy performances on, how efficient he has been with throwing the ball downfield. And I said this before, he kind of plays like he's not afraid in a lot of ways. And I feel like his surrounding kind of cast is really showing up and giving really their full effort. And just, it's not just one guy, it's like multiple guys on this squad have just been really outperforming other teams. And I also don't think it's going to be like a blowout or anything, but I feel like Rye is going to kind of handily win this game. And I think it's just because of the momentum that they have recently, especially with how efficient players have been playing. I'm also going to go with Rye here to win this game.
Let's go to the other B matchup, Mars. We have Lakeland at Pleasantville. Lakeland 6-3 at Pleasantville, who's 8-0. And this is a rematch of their September 30th game, where Pleasantville won 31-16. And when we start, let's start on the Lakeland side. And they won at Pearl River last week as the underdog. They have won now 3 straight games overall. And I think it was their first playoff win since 2009. So this has been a real nice season for Lakeland overall. And offensively, they have 5 games where they have scored 30-plus points. This is an offense that has been very explosive when they're not shooting themselves in the foot, right? So last time they played Pleasantville, they got off to such a slow start. They gave up a kick return touchdown in the beginning, and then offensively, I think 2 out of the first 4 possessions, they had a turnover. And one of them was a defensive touchdown, right? So they cannot get off to that kind of start. I know Polo Castro at times had some success running versus Pleasantville, but is not going to have a lot. I think it's going to be tough running against this Pleasantville defense. A lot of the onus is going to be on their quarterback and Leonard, who's also had a very tremendous season. I thought had one of his, unfortunate, especially in the first half, his poorest performance against Pleasantville. But overall, he's had a tremendous year. 1,800 yards passing, completing 68% of his passes, 23 touchdowns to 9 INTs, Mars, including 4 rushing touchdowns. So how they handle the pressure of Pleasantville is going to be extremely important. Like it was the first time around, they didn't handle it the greatest. So the second time, I know a lot of their offense is getting Leonard out on the run and kind of these off-platform plays. So when the first read's not there, he does a good job of creating extra, seconds for his team and then making throws. Obviously, that's a big part of their offense. And they like to come up to the line quickly and check things. So it's going to be important for them to try to diagnose, get the ball out of your hands quickly. The guys like Perry and Gallagher are tough to guard. They have 16 touchdowns receiving combined and over 90 receptions between the two. So that's kind of going to be the guys that they're looking to target in this game. And Gallagher was tremendous last week. Defensively, I'm just going to say this, Mars. If I'm Lakeland, I'm telling my special teams, and at no point in time can we allow Daniel Bacard to touch this ball, whether we punt or kick it. If I'm Lakeland, right? I mean, there's no way I can allow an opening kickoff to go for a touchdown. I'd rather kick it out of bounds than have him touch the ball, if I'm being frank. But obviously don't throw it out of bounds. But you know what I mean. Don't kick it to Daniel is kind of the big emphasis. But defensively, they forced 22 turnovers this year, Mars. Lakeland is a defense that gives their offense a lot of opportunities. Aliv is a big part of that. He's got 59 tackles and 3 INTs this year. Brody is another one who's been a big playmaker for this defense. You have guys like Ferroni and Ferrante. Ferrante had 3 sacks last week. Gallagher has 6 INTs on the season. So this is a team that also has multiple guys that made plays. And the defense of Lakeland is what kept them in the game, in my opinion. Last time they played or got them back in the game because they forced a couple turnovers that kept them alive before the offense got going. So that's kind of the Lakeland side. For the Pleasantville side, they were dominant last week versus Putnam Valley. They're 1 win away, Mars, from their 3rd straight section title game, which is pretty unprecedented, I think, for Pleasantville, unless someone in the chat from Pleasantville history wants to tell me the last time that's occurred. I don't know, but it's pretty historic. Offensively, they've scored 30-plus points in 5 straight games, and obviously it all starts with Daniel Picard, has over 900 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, also has 400 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns, so 20 touchdowns, over 1,300 yards. He's been sensational. Aiden Picard completing 61% of his passes is a big one to me. 11 touchdowns to 6 INTs, so almost 2-to-1 ratio. Protecting the football is going to be so important because they had drops last time they played them, and there's opportunities that are going to be there because Lakeland's going to look to bail out to stop Picard. It's going to leave things open for guys like Coleman. Defensively, 8 or less points allowed in 4 straight games. This defense has also forced 19 turnovers. Bucks had 8 sacks in total. They love to generate pressures with their linebackers stunting in Horgan and Sadow. And this secondary I thought was tremendous for about 3.5 quarters versus Lakeland the last time they played them. So to me, that's going to be another big one. And the secondary step up to guard these tremendous wide receivers. And that's guys like Kaczynski, Dundee, McDermott. Keeping Leonard in the pocket is going to be huge, Mars. Thoughts on this game? I know I spoke a lot. There's a lot to talk about in this one, and we'll show a little bit of tape, Mars. But what are your thoughts overall before I pick it?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be an interesting battle, mainly because, obviously last time that both these teams played each other, it did get chippy. It did get more intense. So, especially by the end of the game, and even by halftime, it was getting chippy. So I feel like this is going to be more of an emotional battle. But, it's almost to that point where, both teams really got to focus on what they do best and try to really just show out and be technically sound. I feel like that's going to be the big thing that I'm looking at for this game.
Yeah, Marcin, if you could pick up, put out play number 3, and just talk about I'm going to talk, and we'll both talk about the Lakeland offense versus this Pleasantville defense. Show a couple clips. And again, guys, we're trying to do live clips, so this is kind of a bit new for us. We've done recorded clips where we showed it in the past, so going a little bit live. It's a little bit delayed for guys like me. I don't work, unfortunately, in the NFL or for college. But let me see this loading up.
And so we have the play here. Yeah, play number 3. So we have the play. We have the actual play formation and everything here. Yep.
And you can see Lakeland likes to do. They like to go into the spread here. And you can see getting the quarterback out on the edge is an important part of this offense. And they're going to do that by motioning that running back and getting him out, not standing in the pocket, especially for defenses that like the blitz. Pearl River likes the blitz, and we know Pleasantville likes the blitz. So they're going to try to get Grady Leonard out on the edge, and they're going to try to create some space for him to throw. And you can see these receivers are evenly spread out, and you're going to see the route combination. And when we get the play rolling, you're going to see the linebackers kind of going to want to blitz up the gut. And Pleasantville really likes to blitz up the middle as well with their linebackers. So getting out on the edge is going to be extremely important. And this could be some of the recipe that Lakeland uses in their game versus Pleasantville as well. So as the play rolls, you're going to see linebackers coming. Leonard is a good athlete. He can get out on the edge. And we'll only show it one time just so you don't have to go back and forth. But you're going to see him get out on the edge right here. You're going to see the number 3 receiver, which I believe is Gallagher. And he does a really good job of not running into coverage. They have a flat defender, as you're going to see, does a pretty good job of getting into the throwing lane. And look at him settle down here, Mars. So you see Leonard, he's looking for him. He watches him settle down, not continue to run into the flat here. So he settles down, gives his quarterback a nice window. He makes the throw here. And it leads to a really nice play. So this is the kind of stuff, getting him out on the edge, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. These are obviously all really important plays.
And so now we're on the next play here.
Yep. And when we get to the next play, again, similar situation, but this time they have 2 backs. And the big thing is the ability, again, get out on the edge and read the coverage that's in front of him. You can see that corner who's playing off right there, and that's really the read where he's looking at. So as you get the play going, you're going to see the route combination once more in this one.
It goes up the edge.
Yep, getting off the edge. Quarterback now reading the coverage, and when it pauses, you're going to see that the corner is still playing off, right? Because he's got to try to play in between that corner route and this kind of comeback out on the edge, and Leonard reading that. So that's going to be the important thing. They want to get the block on the edge. They want him to get out there, and look at he's throwing because he's reading it right away. Throws it on that comeback, leads to another nice first down. But getting out on the edge is going to be extremely important, and getting the ball out of your hand quickly is going to be extremely important for Lakeland. On the final thing, what makes Leonard so unique is his ability to extend plays, right? So when we get to that third play, you're going to see that he's going to try to again throw to motion out into kind of a trips, and he wants to throw to the swing or the two slants. That's kind of going to be the big, the read here, right? Because it looks like they got some man coverage here, but the safety's actually going to bail to that side. So his first read is, does that guy stay in the flat or does he go with the slant? If he goes with the slant, he'll throw it to the, to the running back. But if he stays in, he's going to try to throw to one of those slants. But the safety does a good job undercutting it. And so his first read is going to kind of be taken away. Now, when that first read is taken away, now he's got to scramble. And this is what makes him, he's a very good athlete. And if you don't contain, he can kill you. So you see the pressure is going to come up the middle here. And he's going to break that pocket, make two defenders, brush right by them. And he's going to run into the end zone. And these are the kind of plays that are backbreaking. The defense does good coverage, but the quarterback breaks contain here and makes a play with his feet. And I think Leonard, if they're going to try to pull this upset off Mars, he's going to have to make these kind of plays, right? He's going to have to be smart with the football. And if there's plays not there, he's going to have to use his feet. And that's going to be the best chance I think Lakeland has offensively to move the ball. When we get to the next play now, it's kind of the focus on the Pleasantville defense. And this is a defense that is very good. I mentioned it in the stats that I kind of gave when we talked about them. And the big thing that they do very well is they create a lot of pressure. And this secondary has done a really good job all year long, but it's really emphasized. They love to send their linebackers. And you got to know where number 34 is at all times if you're this team. So you see, this is Lakeland. They're going to try to do a little bit of play action, but because of how fast this defense gets off the ball and that way the linebackers hit the hole, it makes it near impossible at times. So if you don't get a hat on number 34, who kind of likes to blitz more than half the time, you're going to be in trouble. He creates a lot of negative plays. And as you see, when the play good runs the first time, ours, you just have to run it once. The play action, they try to get it where they're trying to suck in the secondary a little bit, but he gets through the hole so fast, Mars. Leonard has no chance, right? I mean, look at when he snaps the ball here. He's faking it first. I think there was a little bit of miscommunication on which way he's got to stand. But look at how fast. I mean, Horrigan's in there in 1 second, and he gets the sack. And you see that a lot all year round. And so Lakeland's like, okay, well, if Horrigan's going to blitz, we're going to try to catch him. And they try to, check on the sideline. When you go to the next play, I try to check the sideline and say, okay, if Oregon's blitzing, we'll try to throw behind it, right, to kind of replace the route. And what I like Pleasantville does at times is they will mix it up, right? It won't just be Oregon, even though the odds say that most of the time it could be. But they will send other guys at times. And I think that's what creates problems for offenses. And this is an example of that. So you see another two backs here. They're going to motion the back to try to identify what the coverage is. And when that guy motions, you're going to see the safety go with him. So looking to be shown man coverage. So they're thinking a blitz is coming, right? In my opinion, what I would think, right? So that's kind of like the big thing. But Oregon doesn't come. They actually send the other linebacker and this edge guy. So the quarterback's thinking if Oregon's coming, I could throw that slant right behind him. But Oregon doesn't drop. And when the safety goes in motion and his back blocks, he actually drops into coverage as well. So it takes away that first slant window. Now, I mentioned that they're blitzing. So there's going to be pressure right away. And because he double clutches, he now throws it to the second post, and he gets hit while throwing. And now the secondary guy is right there, Mars, to make the INT. It's little details like that that make this Pleasantville defense has been really good all year long. Right? They're looking to try to catch them on the blitz, try to throw that first slant, but Oregon doesn't go. and now he's got to throw it to the second read, but there's pressure in his face, which leads to a turnover.
Yep.
And Mars, that's kind of my little film sesh between the two. And now I know, what are your kind of thoughts? Do you have any other thoughts, Mars, before I pick this game?
No, I feel like that it's obviously going to be a test of the secondary and test of the schemes and seeing, can Lakeland really read this defense and can the defense bring the pressure and really cause some disruption? I mean, because that's what happened last time, right? That obviously Lakeland has the ability to make a lot of big plays, but it's really going to be the battle of who can be more efficient and follow their reads, follow the rules, and be really secure your spots, doing what you're supposed to do better than the other guy. And it's going to be a good test. I mean, especially since now Lakeland's going to be at Pleasantville. That's going to be kind of now a change in scenery, which will be tough for any team to go do.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that said, can Lakeland pull off the upset? They did it last week, and it was because the offense got off to a fast start. Defense forced a bunch of turnovers, and that's going to be the remedy if they kind of try to pull this upset off again. And slowing down Daniel is going to be the big part of it. I unfortunately don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with Pleasantville in this game, Mars. I think they do get back to the section title game. I just love the way they're playing as an entire unit, offense, defense, and special teams. They're playing at a very high level. All right, Mars, let's go to A. And first one I want to talk about, Eastchester at Somers. Eastchester's 7-2. Somers is 8-1. And I want to start with Eastchester. They won versus Fox Lane last week. I think it's their first playoff victory. Since 2015? All right, so first playoff victory since 2015. And maybe the Eastchester people in chat, if they're there, can tell me if that is the case. But I think it is doing my research. But I know it's their first 7-win season since 2015. So this has been another very, very strong season for Eastchester. And they deserve a lot of kudos, the coaches and the kids. And offensively, it starts up, and I talked about this week after week, Mars, Aiden Schultz, who is the orchestrator of this offense, 2 passing touchdowns last week. He's going to be so important, not just throwing the ball, but also running the ball. He's going to be an absolute key factor in this game. Now, they have running backs like Bruner, who's made big plays for them. Bartucci had a touchdown last week. But I think running against this Somers team, especially in between the tackle box, is going to be a tough trick. They're going to have to try to get out on the edge. It's going to be a big one. And Schultz is going to have to throw the football consistently if they're going to try to make some big plays against this Somers defense. And Provenzali and McCloskey are 2 key weapons to keep an eye on for this Eastchester offense. Defensively, this has kind of been one of my favorite units to watch. I mean, they've allowed 7 or less points, Mark, in 7 of 9 games. And this is a defense that has multiple guys who can get after multiple guys who can make plays for your team at each level on the defensive line, secondary, linebackers. And the big thing I'm wondering, Mars, is how they're going to hold up against the physicality and strength of Somers, especially in the run game. They got to be able to, again, stop the run game, try to create some negative plays, and then get after the quarterback. That's going to be kind of the big thing. And linebackers like Chiafone, Tito, this defensive line is going to be a huge test. Now, I thought they passed it pretty well for the most part against a physical run team like Harrison. But now this is going to be another step up in running the football with physicality. Can this defense handle it? When I go to Somers now, they won versus Pelham last week. They have won 8 straight games, Mars. They are 1 win away from 3 straight section title appearances. And maybe someone can let me know, but I think this is the first time that's happened, at least for the last, since 2004, right? Probably even longer. So Somers has not done that before. We talk about kind of the history of Somers and the coaches that have been there, but this could be the first time that occurs. So that's an interesting tidbit right there. Offensively, this is kind of led, and there's multiple guys that makes play, but it's kind of like a 3-headed monster on his Somers offense. And it starts with their quarterback, Ken Sullivan, who has over 1,700 yards and 24 total touchdowns. Their running back, Kelly, has over 700 yards and 13 touchdowns. And then their wide receiver, who can go into the slot, is Palazzolo, who's the young kid who has over 800 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. That's like the big 3. I mean, we've seen other guys make some big plays like Iglesias as well. But the key for me, I think, and similar to how they kind of won the second half versus Yorktown, Mars, is this offensive line's physicality and the physical run game. And I think that's something that can wear down this Eastchester offense over time. So if they don't turn the ball over, that's going to be the big thing. They can't turn the ball over. They had 3 turnovers against Yorktown. They survived that, but those kind of turnovers can usually kill you in these kind of games. So if they protect the football, I think this offense at some point can wear down this Eastchester team running the ball. Defensively, this is a defense that has forced 14 turnovers. They've had 6 total sacks. A guy like Geoffrey has been really good for them. Has over 120 tackles. This is another defense that have multiple guys that can make plays for you. This secondary, I thought, has been really solid those last couple of weeks. But can they get after the quarterback? Guys like Conti, Newman, Kreco, Cole, these are guys that have made big plays for this defense. And they're going to have to be, again, if they could just limit big plays, I think, again, moving the ball, especially running the ball, is going to be tough for Eastchester against this defensive front 7. Mars, thoughts on this game before we get into our picks?
No, I feel like this is obviously going to be a very interesting matchup because Eastchester's defense has been phenomenal all year long, and now they're going to face the top team in A, in my opinion, and I obviously this is going to be a real test. You got to see how well does Eastchester's offense move the ball against the Somers' very strong defense, and I feel like that's going to be kind of setting the stage here for, you know, if Eastchester can limit the amount of big plays from, like you said, these grouping of guys on Somers that can make big plays, then at least then I think offensively Eastchester will have to really make big plays, get themselves in the red zone, and you know, I think it might be a defensive showcase if, you know, we might see a whole game of just not a lot of scoring going on, and whoever can score score enough points and get a little bit of momentum by the end of the game, they're going to be ones that kind of get that dub here. So yeah, I feel like it'll be a very big defensive showcase.
Mars, I'm going to go with Somers. I think Somers historically 5-1 versus Eastchester. They have won 5 straight versus Eastchester. They're at home. Last 2 times they played has been they've outscored Eastchester 69-14. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think Somers will wear down this Eastchester defense and win this game.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go Somers. I think what's going to happen is by halftime, I think it'll be a really close game. I think it'll be probably closer to like a 7-0 or to a 14-7 game. Somers will be leading, and then they're going to kind of pull away, either get another score by the fourth quarter, make it roughly around like a 21-7. I don't like giving scores or giving numbers because I could be completely wrong, but I just feel like Somers always really starts out slow, and then they kind of expand or explode the game by that fourth quarter when other teams are drained, and I feel like they're just going to kind of pull away at the end. So I think it'll be a close game for 2-3 quarters, and I think Somers is just going to pull ahead, and they're going to secure the win here.
Yeah, let's go to the other A semifinals game, Morris. I think probably the game of the week. Yorktown 8-1 at Harrison 7-2. And when you look at historically, Harrison's 3-1 versus Yorktown. They played last year where Harrison won 24-6. Let's start with Yorktown. I thought they won very impressively versus Clarkstown South last week. 8 wins is the most wins in a season that they've had since 2019. Offensively, they have scored 30-plus points 6 out of the last 9 games, or 6 out of the 9 games they played. And they've had 5 40-plus point games, Mars. So this offense has been very explosive and at times can be very balanced. But this week, Mars, I think it's going to be a relying on the passing game. And it starts with their quarterback in Gonzalez. They had 253 yards passing last week and 4 touchdowns. Now they can run. They do have to have balance running the ball without question. But against this physical defensive front 7 in Harrison, I think it's going to be a tough task. And they have some size, but guys like Wilson, without question, is going to be a slugfest. And guys like Delvecchio and Constantine can really muscles at times with some hard-earned runs. But I think it's going to be the passing game that opens up this defense for them to make some big plays. And probably throwing it out of trips, throwing out of heavy looks, whether it is 21, whether it's 20. I do think kind of if you're going to bring this defense together and they're going to play man coverage on some of your stud receivers like Costello, who is tremendous. You have Weissman, Price, Kane. You have to make them pay if they're going to play man coverage, right? That's going to be the big thing for Yorktown. I think it starts in the passing game. Defensively, this is a very aggressive defense coming up against another physical rush attack. I thought they did very well for about 3 quarters against Somers. They got to bring that kind of intensity again this time around. If they can get Harrison into some negative situations, trying to throw the ball at second and third and long, that's not where Harrison wants to be. So I'm interested to see, again, they're going to be bringing pressure. Their linebacker Vogel, who's all over the field all season long, but Kane has made some plays. Last week had a really impressive INT. Duncan, Bowen, 40. This This is a very active defense that forces a bunch of negative plays and turnovers, Mars, and that's what they want to get Harrison into, second and third and long. For the Harrison side, they dominated Mayapack last week, shut them out, really controlled the game from kind of start to finish, and they've now had 7+ wins, Mars, in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 2015 to 2005 to 2007. So this has obviously been two very impressive years back-to-back for Harrison. On the offensive side, it's going to be a huge line on this offensive line. I thought they were very physical versus Mayapack last week, and they're going to have to be that again this time around. They got to control this game. They got to, shorten this game, limit the possessions that Yorktown has, and that's where running the football with physicality with guys like Barcella, Krupe, Lanza is kind of like the spark plug for this offense who can come in at the quarterback spot and also run the ball. And their quarterback Citro's got to make smart decisions. They can't turn the ball over. He was smart with the ball last week. Has to be able to do that this time. Maybe they could take some shots at times at guys like McLaughlin. But defensively, this has been another very impressive defensive unit. I mentioned they really locked down Mayapack last week, but they've had 4 shutouts all season. Right, so this is a defense that can really limit you. And they've allowed 7 or less points 5 out of 9 games, and it all starts with their ability to stop the run. And that's stopping the run also with light boxes, it's called, Mars, where a lot of teams like to do the spread and count numbers, like, oh, we have 7 here, including the quarterback, they have 6, we should run the ball, right? But Harrison is really strong in their front 7 that even when you have a 7 versus 6 advantage, they still create 1 or 2 yard gains or even a negative play. And that's what makes Harrison really strong, is they can actually put guys in coverage at times, and with a light box, they can stop the run. And it again starts with that front set: Belidamaj, Nicolaj, Santarelli, Haynes, Marisi, Barcella. This is a defensive front 7 that has really been stout versus the run all season long. And they have a secondary that also gets after you in the run game. Like, they're not afraid to come up. They're not afraid to tackle. They have some speed. But at times, they will lead this defensive group, especially in trips. I'm interested to see how they play the 3v1. Last week, when Carney was a single receiver, they played kind of a cover 2 concept with a corner in his face. McLaughlin traveled with him. Do they do that with Costello this week? So that's kind of going to be the big question I have. How the secondary plays some of the spread looks and how they play Costello this time around. Mars, I do have tape. This is the final tape that I do have, Mars, but what are your thoughts on this game before I dive into it?
I mean, this is definitely the game I was looking forward to watching for, obviously when we see the bracket being made. And because I thought to myself that, Harrison kind of dominated Mayapack to kind of like to a very strong degree. And it was kind of like their revenge game in a way for what happened earlier in the season. And kind of it feels as if they have a goal, they have a purpose to get to the section final. And I feel like this defensive front has been very impressive. And I feel like their secondary is going to be what's really tested in this game. And Yorktown's on that same warpath. They've been battling teams all year long, and they've been winning. And obviously, they want that chance too. And so I feel like this is that matchup that it's going to be a tight game, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to see what happens with this game between these two really, really good teams.
Yeah, Mars, if you could pull up play number 1. This is the last film session I have for this week. And it's going to show the Yorktown offense. Just kind of give you a small glimpse of the Yorktown offense and the glimpse of this Harrison defense and why it's so tough against the run. So we'll kind of showcase these two guys a little bit and where I think kind of Yorktown could try to attack and why Yorktown might have a tough time running versus this Harrison team. So again, while that kind of loads up for me, and the first play,
we got the formation.
The play number 1, yeah. Yeah, so play number 1 here, and we're going to start with Yorktown. And they like to come out with this kind of 20 look or 21 at times with tight end. But they get 2 backs. And what I like that Yorktown can do is they can throw out of the 20 look, even though it's not a full spread stuff. But they'll go into 20 and kind of go into max protection and try to take some deep shots. And this is a play from last week. And you can see the safety is about 7 yards from the line of scrimmage, which kind of puts him in the box, right? So he's not playing deep, which means that they're going to be playing some sort of man coverage here on these 2 receivers. And when you got guys like Costello and Weissman, it's tough to play man on them. And so Yorktown's going to try to make them pay. And you can see the route combination here, a go route and a dig route. And they're going to say, well, our guys are better than yours, so we don't think you can play man coverage on them. And you're going to see they're going to try to get a little bit of crossing going on, create a little bit of confusion, and use their speed here. And the most important thing is protection, right? That's where it all starts. So you're going to see this offensive line who has been pretty strong all year long. And as a play runs, if you give Gonzalez time and space, he can really make you pay.
Yep. Deep shot.
You can see, look at this offensive line, right? Does a really good job creating that pocket. Nice little fake there, but look at the space he has. And now Costello one-on-one, you can see the cushion has been kind of broken. He's hip to hip already with the DB. Barely can turn around. That's bad news, right? So he's going to plant that foot, Mars, take that shot.
Now the next play now.
Yeah. And, when that gets to the second play, and I was always interested when I mentioned previously, Mars, is how is Harrison going to defend kind of the 3v1? And Yorktown can, they like to move receivers around, and the big focus to me is Costello. Which you can see Costello's on the top, and they have multiple guys who can run patterns for you. So how does Harrison play this? Last week they did a kind of cover 2 concept, but this time around you can see South is going to play a little bit different. That second defender is going to be the flat defender. Corner's going to be playing over the top. And so they're going to target the single receiver side. Now, if they play cover 2 on there, you'll probably attack the trip side. But in this particular play, they're going to attack that single receiver side because they have, again, technically still bracketing 2-on-1, but they're going to roll to that side, kind of create a run-pass option for him. But watch the route running by Costello, Mars. You're going to see when he gets that out, he's going to sink his hips here. And this is a nice little play for wide receivers out there. And trying to make sharp cuts, get the defender thinking you're going deep, and then sink your hips and break to the outside.
Easy.
Right? It makes it look super easy, right? But there's technically 2 defenders on him, right? And you're going to see he's trying to go under him. A really good route here and a really good ball placement here. He doesn't undercut it. Good route makes that play.
On to the next one now.
Yep. Finally, going to the last play, and again, this is where I think that Yorktown can have success. We go to Harrison. And Harrison has been very good at stopping the run and getting teams into second and third and long. And I got to say this, I watched quite a few games of Harrison, and going against Mapac last week, at times Mapac tried to run out of spread, tried to run out of heavy boxes. And if you're going to put Harrison in kind of this 5-man front, I think you're kind of playing it to their hand. So my advice is probably not running into these heavy sets and getting Harrison in these condensed boxes because it's very hard to move them. And you're going to see Mapac tries to go very heavy here. They're going to bring in their receiver here, acts as like another tight end. And they're pretty much going to go into like a 23 look and try to run with their quarterback by pulling a lineman. And when this play runs, I just want you to watch this defensive line and how there is zero movement on the ball gets snapped, right? Because this defensive line is very strong. They know how to anchor down, and it allows these linebackers to flow to the ball without offensive linemen in their face. And you can just see here, if you're getting them, my recommendation is don't get them into condensed boxes like this because Harrison has proven this year that they are tough to move. When you try to say, okay, we're just going to out-muscle you. There hasn't been many teams that can out-muscle Harrison running the football. And you can see, look at this D-line, Mars. I mean, there's not a lot of movement. Look at the linebackers flow to him. And these guys swarm into the ball and pretty much stonewalls. And this is just an example of their ability to stonewall you if you try to muscle them, if you want to do that. So then there's another way, right? Somers says, okay, we're going to try to outnumber them. And this is an example right here, Mars. Look at this, 2 backs. There's no tight ends. They're trying to spread them out with these receivers. And they have, with their quarterback, who's a very good runner, a 8-7 matchup on this second play, right? So the numbers tell you that they have the numbers to run successfully. And I'm counting that overhang was pretty close to the tackle box as the 7th guy because that safety is over 10 yards. So he's not in the box. But they're going to run the ball with the running back. And because of the quarterback's ability to run, that defensive end on the backside has to be honest and stay home until he hands it off. So you would think that they have the numbers. But this defensive line, Mars, with Polidamaj and Nicolaj and Santarelli and these linebackers, they cause a lot of problems. And as you watch the play run, Mars, you're going to see, even with the numbers, they are strong. They use their hands. They can penetrate. And they
He
cause
just
a
makes
lot of
plays.
havoc. Yeah, they cause a lot of havoc in the run game. I mean, the numbers try to tell you that this should work, right? Quarterback holds at the end, but it just doesn't happen. Because look at the penetration.
Yeah.
Now you go to the last play, Mars. And there's another thing. Okay, so Summers tried being smart, and they're saying, okay, we'll fully spread them out. We won't go into 20. We'll go into trips, right? 3v1. And you're going to see in the box, because now the overhang is going a little bit wider on that receiver. He's not as close to the tackle box. They actually have 6 in the box. You don't even see the deep safety. So the odds say, okay, we should be able to run the ball here, right? Including the quarterback. So that's what they try to do, run to the weak side because that overhang is a little bit deeper. But even then, watch this D-line, Mars, causing the penetration, undercutting these pull blocks. Hard to move. You get all these down blocks in this pull block right here, and there's not a lot of movement. And they can create a lot of penetration, and look at them finish this play. Look at him use his hands, fight through the double team, even with the linebacker taking an initial step the wrong way. Look at him rebound. I mean, this is just textbook by this D-line, right?
It's literally perfect there, man.
They're tough to run against, Mars.
Yeah, man.
All right, Mars. Who do you got in this game and why?
I mean, this is definitely a tough one for sure. I mean, like you said, I feel like Harrison is really setting themselves up to really be able to stop any sort of run game. And, I'm always a big fan of the Hogs up front and what they're capable of and what they're able to do. And the only thing I'll say, though, is we saw early on in the season, Harrison has been unable to stop the big plays, especially in the passing game. And now they've definitely gotten better at really not making as many mistakes on the defensive end, especially in the pass defense. But I feel like Yorktown is going to kind of take advantage of some of those mistakes. And, as much as they might not be able to just straight up overpower Harrison because Harrison's just so strong up front, but I feel like Yorktown has a lot of weapons that can make a lot of plays, and they might wear down Harrison's team in general because of the fact that they might try to maybe do some more hurry up, move more spread concepts to kind of get Harrison off their gain. And I think that I'm going to go with Yorktown here. I feel like Yorktown's going to win this game. They have kind of like that momentum on their side. Offensively, they have a lot of weapons that can make big plays. And I feel like it's going to be a battle of the front. And I feel like whoever has a stronger front coming up this weekend, that's going to be really that really the answer to who will win this title. I mean, win this game to get to the title game. And I feel like I'm going to go with Yorktown here.
Mars, the two big keys for me, Yorktown's ability to, again, to stop the run. That's going to be really important in this one. If they can get Harrison second, third, and long, it's an advantage for them. And for the Yorktown's offense, not turning the ball over. I think this is going to be a huge game for their quarterback, and Gonzalez. He's got to be very smart with the football because I do think there's going to be times they're going to be in second, third, and long because they can't run the ball consistently. With that said, Mars, I really love both these units. Someone's got to win this game, and I think it's going to be Yorktown. I think Yorktown wins. All right, Mars, let's go to the AA, and we'll close it out. Let's start with the first one. Big rivalry. John Jay East Fishkill 7-2 at Arlington, who's 9-0. And this has been a long time rivalry, but they haven't played since 2019. And when I was doing my research, Mars, get a load of this number. Arlington's previous regime, when they played John Jay East Fishkill, Mars, East Fishkill won. They were 10-2 versus Arlington. I mean, this is a long time rivalry, but John Jay East Fishkill absolutely dominated this rivalry for a long time. But since 2016, Arlington is 3-2 versus John Jay. So it's kind of flipped in recent years. I know they haven't played each other in a couple of years, but John Jay used to dominate this group. And then now Arlington has a winning record versus John Jay. So interesting little tidbit there. But talking about John Jay, and offensively, obviously it starts with their quarterback in Feliciano, who's got over 1,500 yards, over 20 total touchdowns, and only has one turnover, Mars. So he has been very smart with the football. He is obviously the orchestrator of this throwing and running. And running is going to be a key one to me in this one. And that's with Rossi as well. This offensive line has to generate some holes for this running game because for a couple of reasons. East Fishkill has to limit the possessions of Arlington. right? If Arlington gets a bunch of possessions, it is hard to stop that offense. So they need to shorten this game at points in time. And I do think at times teams have been able to run the ball against Arlington. And I do think East Fishkill has to show that they can do that with some consistency here. So going to be big emphasis on this offensive line. And the quarterback rollout game is also very important for Feliciano. And to me, it's a run-pass option. If the first play is not there, run for it, man. Absolutely run for it. And maybe they can hit some big plays with Angioletti, their wide receiver, who's one of their leading guys. On the defensive side, Mark, they had a very strong game last week. Got key stops in big moments. But they're going up against a very high-powered offense. And this is a defense that hasn't forced a lot of turnovers this year. They're going to be facing a mix of some RPO stuff out of the spread, some power read out of the spread, and then some heavy sets. The first thing they got to do is limit Resigno getting out of the pocket. That's got to be the number one priority for this defense. Limit him outside the pocket. They've had multiple guys like Crouch, Vanderstuff, Berg, who have made plays. We know Feliciano is also someone who's also been very active on the defensive side of the ball. But they have to prevent Resigno from getting outside the pocket. When they go into the spread, these DBs really have to take away inside leverage on these Arlington wide receivers because they could take these slants. Arlington has a bunch of receivers who can take slants to the house. So the big thing is going to be trying to generate some pressure on Resigno and keeping him in the pocket, seeing if maybe they can create some turnovers. For Arlington, Mars, it's championship or bust. This is a supremely talented football team. Without question, they have been a dominant force all season long. But now they got to close the deal, right? And it's got to be against one of your rivals to get to the championship game. And offensively, Resigno has been tremendous, Mars. Over 2,000 total yards. He does take a lot of chances, of 55% completion percentage because they take a lot of deep shots. But 27 total touchdowns and only 3 turnovers, Mars. That, to me, is the key. Resigno at times has turned the ball over in previous years. This year, he has been sensational. And they also have 3 backs that have over 300 yards rushing, Resigno being one of them, but Davenport, who has also 15 touchdowns, and DeGusto, which is another one who's been an important runner. But this is this offensive line. Cubberly, McGann, their tight end, these other offensive linemen, they're going to have a size advantage versus John Jay. And I think running the ball and doing some of the play action is where they're going to have some success because they got those receivers. Lavello has made big plays, Jordan, Joshua, Tuttle. This is an offense that has been a big play offense that has put up a lot of points. But it all starts with the run game and their size advantage. Defensively, they have given up some big rush yards, but this defense has forced 20 turnovers, Mars, which is going to be key in this one. Feliciano hasn't turned the ball over much, but this defense has forced turnovers at a high clip. Finn, McGann, Rio Muto have been big key players in this one. Lavello, I think he's leading the league with 7 INTs, Mars. He's been huge in the back end. Kazolius. The big thing is that Feliciano is they run a very heavy rollout type offense. Keeping him in the pocket is going to be very important as well. This one was a tough one. I think rivalry games are going to make it close. It's not going to be a blowout, but I am going to go with Arlington. I think Arlington is the more talented football team with a size advantage, and I think that's what's going to be the key here, Mars.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same way. I feel like Arlington, like you said this before, it's actually title or bust because I feel like they have the momentum on their side. They have the athletes. They have the players that can make big plays. They have the line that is massive that's been dominating all year long. So it's almost like that expectation, right? You're expected to get to that point, and you're going to have to go through some challenges to get there, like playing a rival to get to that point. So, and this is a big game for Arlington to really usher in like a dominant season and keep the train rolling. So for John Jay's Fishkill, you're playing with house money. That's really what it is. You're playing with house money. Got to give everything you got. Obviously, against a rival, you want to win, but it's going to be really reliant on that front, right? Can they really slow down this rush offense that Arlington has? And if they can, then it's going to be a game. But I'm going to go with Arlington here.
Let's go to the last game, Mars. We have Suffern 5-3 at Carmel, who's 7-1. Now, Carmel historically, Mars, 10-1 versus Suffern. They have won the last 3 meetings. But let's start with Suffern. They had that huge road victory against Mamaroneck last week. And offensively, before last week, they were really starting to struggle. I was wondering what was going on with this offense. But, boy, they exploded. They rushed over 300 yards last time around. It was a big kudos to this offensive line, fullbacks, and tight ends. But they have a large test in front of them. It's been very difficult for teams to run the ball consistently versus Carmel. And I think they're going to have to, especially on the play side, their ability to down block and move these big, deep tackles of Carmel is going to be key. And to kick out those edge defenders or those overhang defenders. I think it's going to be a big C-gap type of run game if they're going to find that kind of success. Jeff Joseph was tremendous. 322 yards and 5 touchdowns. If he gets to the second level, there's not many guys who can catch them. But I don't think they're going to have 300 yards rushing this week, Mars. They're going to have to make some plays in the passing game. And so there's going to be a big onus on guys like Palumbo to get, again, they're not going to throw it 25 times. That's not their offense. But they got to get some big plays out of the passing game to keep this defense and secondary honest. They can't allow these overhang guys to just bail out for the run because they don't respect your passing game. And so getting guys like Snell and Lou involved is going to be really important. Defensively, I think this has been a pretty strong unit throughout the season. But the last couple of weeks, Mars, they have allowed 30-plus points. And so that does bring a little bit of concern for me. Stopping the run is obviously going to be a huge priority. I think you got to put Snell on a guy like Santiago and, he has some size to him because Santiago's a big boy who can jump and go make plays, but you have to stop the run first. And when I look at Carmel, Mars, they had a win versus Neuro last week. They're one win away from reaching their third straight section title appearance, which also hasn't been done since Show, right? The heyday of Show. So a really interesting dynamic here. Offensively, last week they started off slow, and they only had a total of 197 yards, but still found a way to win. And it's a really predicate on the run game. And again, I don't know if this is, when I was doing research, seeing Tristan Werleu's numbers, and they call him Tristan Cash Werleu, so I guess I'll call him that as well. Cash Werleu, I kind of like that. He had 60, he has over 900 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns this year. He is obviously the key cog with this offensive line. And they're going to focus in on the run game, spell him with Venables at times. But their quarterback, Nunez, who they haven't asked to throw a lot, but he's completing over 60% of his passes and has 6 touchdowns to 2 INTs. He can also run the ball as well on some of those kind of rollouts. That's their offense. Running the football, play action out of that. They're not going to throw a lot, but they will take some chances with guys like Abel and Santiago who have made some plays these last couple weeks in the passing game. Defensively, they've allowed 7 or less points in 6 out of 8 games, Mars. You're going to see a lot of heavy looks, especially if Suffern's going to come out with 2 backs. You're going to see those 2 overhangs coming off the edge. They're going to get some line movement. This is a defense, Mars, that when you get into second, third, and long and they can bring that pressure, they generate a lot of negative plays. 24 sacks, Mars, this year by this defense and 12 turnovers. So sacks are a huge part of it. They're led by Forrester and Risley, who have been big players for them. But Santiago in the secondary, we've seen him make some big time plays these last couple weeks. But Hibbert, Musa Messi, stopping the run is going to be huge for Suffern. If they can get him in second, third, and long, that's playing into Carmel's hands. Now they can bring some of these extra pressures, and that's where the turnovers get generated. With that said, Mars, I do think this is an interesting game. Which Suffern offense is going to show is the big one to me, and can they run the ball with some consistency? If they can't, I think this game gets ugly. But I think it'll be a close one, but I'm still going to go with Carmel. I just love the consistency the defense has been playing. They haven't shown to give up a lot of big plays. And Suffern's defense, who I really liked for majority of the season, last 2 games, 30-plus points. So it makes me a little nervous that the defense is wearing down a little bit and that Carmel will be able to run the ball. I'm going to go with Carmel.
Yeah, I mean, like when I'm looking at this game, I feel like it's always going to be relying on the Hogs up front, and Carmel's O-line has been very consistent all year long, and they're going to have to really have a real test here. They have to push Suffern around in order to really get this run game going, and it's going to be up to really a collection of guys that really have to step up, and Nunez is really going to make a lot of big plays here, really being consistent, and I feel like this defense has been consistent all season long, but the question is going to be up front, can they really withstand the heavy rush attack the Suffern's going to really try to push you around? But I'm also going to go with Carmel. I feel like this is going to be a big game for them. They need to be able to be consistent, hold these drives as long as possible, drain the clock, and try to win up front. And I feel like they will. I feel like offensive line has been very good for Carmel all season long. So I'm going to give them a shout out here. Your challenge is to own the line of scrimmage. So I'm going to go with Carmel.
And that'll do it, guys. Again, we had some deep dives, Mars, into these playoff games, showing some film. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a nice long one, but love talking football. Mars, any last words as we sign off here, guys?
Man, it's only really one week away until we get a lot of the Section 1 finals are here. And I'm really excited to really be able to break down all those title games and seeing who emerges, who arrives, and who is going home. So I feel like it's going to be a good week of football, good weekend of football. Let us know what you guys think about some of these games and what you're excited about, because I'm excited to be kind of diving deep into all these all these playoff matchups, to see who makes it to the title game in the end. But I'm excited, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching, as always. With that, we will sign off. Hope you guys have a great